afternoon, everybody. Thanks for sticking around to see this presentation. My name is Kyle Chong.
And I'm Brittany
And we're first-year students in the Department of Teacher Education in Michigan State University. So the title of our presentation today is Practical and Experiential Learning, Reacting to the Past in High School History Instruction. So we're going to be talking about kind of the humanities side of gaming, and we're going to kind of dive into a case study that we did. But first, I just want to, be really clear. This is really early stage work. We are here to kind of also solicit feedback, and our last slide will also have some questions that we'd like you to consider as well. So what is reacting to the past? Reacting to the past is a post-secondary pedagogy that we are making the argument belongs in a secondary setting. It's a game, a role-playing game in classes where students get a character role sheet that they play. They have factions, and they're historically situated both by primary source texts and historical events. So, for example, you'll be playing a character in the French Revolution. You might be Lafayette. You might be Xenophon in 407 BC Athens. And you're going to be playing those characters with other factions, and you have interests, both course interests and assessments, and you have personal objectives within the game itself. So again, this is focusing on this idea of subversive play, which is an idea from Mark Carnes, where we talk about subverting the normal happenings and flow of the classroom, so disrupting the teacher-student hierarchies, power dynamics. And it also really focuses, in an immersive setting, focuses on public speaking, writing, and teamwork. And it also, and this is a class or a pedagogy that usually will take multiple weeks using whole class sessions. So it's a big approach. So I think my remote just died. So the game we focused on is called Red Clay. It centers on the Cherokee Nation in 1835 Tennessee. It is written by indigenous scholars, and it discusses the Indian Removal Act of 1830, and it focuses on the Cherokee Tribal Council and the factions that worked to try to negotiate with the Jackson administration at the time. And so this game is centered again on the Cherokee Nation. It really centers those Cherokee perspectives, and students will play indigenous people during the game. So.
All right, so our research question, we wanted to really look at how can or ought teachers modify immersive games like Red Clay to use in their high school social studies classrooms. So we're really getting at the practicality of this game in a high school social studies classroom, and we really wanted to place agency with the practitioner. What does that look like for her in this case? How is this game that's created for a post-secondary space going to be adapted or modified into her classroom? So we engaged with a mixed methods approach. We used ethnographic case study and curriculum theory to inform our methods. All right, so just some demographics on our case study. We looked at Sarah Waltman. She's an 11th grade high school USVA social studies teacher. She teaches all USVA classes. She teaches one advanced placement United States history course, which is the class in which we focus. She teaches 4 other United States history courses. At this particular school, every child receives free and reduced lunch. And this school, this subject in particular, is subjected to state testing. So the last bullet, the state testing, and the bolded bullet are going to be key in our study because we're looking at a very particular class, the AP course, and we chose that for particular reasons. But also, state testing is huge for teachers. So how then can we implement this game for post-secondary use that's used to take 3 weeks in secondary classrooms into a post-secondary classroom into the secondary course? So before we can even think about implementation, again, we really want to give agency to the practitioner. So we had to understand how Ms. Waltman then even formulated her lessons. So the first thing she does is she looks at pedagogical content knowledge. So what pedagogy and what content does she use to create lessons that meets the needs of all of her students? Okay. She uses a growth mindset, so she really wants her students to go from I used to think but now what I think, and how did they grow over time in this unit and this lesson? She also uses a variety of games in a variety of ways. So she uses games such as Jeopardy and Trash Get Ball to both introduce lessons, but also to review the lessons before the summative assessments. So, what did this implementation look like from Ms. Waltman's class and compared to what red clay looks like in the post-secondary space? Time, again, red clay usually takes about multiple weeks in this post-secondary space. For Ms. Waltman, she said she would take no longer than a week because time matters in her situation, right, for teachers. So she would do a week at the most. For materials, for red clay, they have the primary, secondary sources, their core text, and their character role sheets. For materials from Ms. Waltman, she would use these scaffolded texts to help students understand more of the secondary sources. She would use shortened character role sheets. Red clay, they have no standards, but that's not the reality of teachers, right? Especially teachers that are subjected to state testing. So she has to ensure, because she's contractually bound to teach these standards. So how is she going to implement the state standards into this red clay model? For the faculty arbitration, for red clay, one of the benefits of that is that there is none. But for the teacher in the secondary space, she modifies the materials and she makes sure that there's a discussion of responsible role play. So before the students even enter into this role play, she's making sure that students understand that role play can be harmful. So how are we setting our rules to make sure that we're not harmful to the people in which we're role playing? Pedagogy, role play, debate, politicking, argumentative essays, that's going to stay the same. The students are going to be dabbling in role play, debate, persuasive essays, and these are all going to make up the formative and summative assessments. Content, the content given, and then for Ms. Waltman's class, there's going to be a deeper investigation of the time period. So in short, Ms. Waltman said she'd love to implement red clay into her classroom, but there are always these limitations. So there's time, testing, and work. These are the three limitations that she really focused on and where she would be hesitant to implement red clay into her classroom. Again, time, testing starts in May for this particular school, so she has to get through all of the content by May, and she would like a review period. So what does that time look like when you have a game that's created for 3 weeks? Again, testing, and on the front end, for the teacher, there's a ton of work that she has to put in, from those scaffolding texts to creating these character role sheets. It's work, and we know teachers already have a ton of work that they have to do anyway, so this is just more to implement this thing. But we know that the benefits are greater. She said that the benefits are greater. Critical thinking, contextualization, continuity and change, these are all 3 tenets of what historical thinking looks like. So she's really getting her children, her students, to delve deeper when we're thinking about discussing history. This game asks for a high cognitive demand of the content. We know that standards, and I know particularly the Virginia SOLs, because I used to teach in Virginia, they're very surface level. So using a game like this is forcing the students to interrogate this curriculum and delve a little bit deeper into this content. This is helpful because it's integrating other subjects such as literacy, and of course, collaboration with classmates and building those skills is always helpful.
And so we're kind of at a junction in this project where we're at a point where we can see this project going in 2 different ways, both being a really strong curriculum theory argument and a practitioner-focused piece. And one of our department in teacher education's course principles is really linking that theory and practice. And so we wanted to articulate the practitioner and theoretical continuities of this study in the last section of our presentation. So from a practitioner standpoint, this game is all about disturbing those normal hierarchies. It's where students are leading the discussions. You're simulating the assemblies. The students are creating backroom deals. Some students say that they have a hard time turning off their character afterwards. And again, this is a space too where the visual is part of the suspensive quality of the game. And that means sometimes putting on a costume. And we know that in our predominantly white schools, this can look a lot like cultural appropriation, especially in a space like Red Clay, where you're simulating indigenous narratives. And that is a problem. But this game really seeks to subvert this conventional notion of costuming because in the costume there are clear rules in the game mechanics that really concretize the use of visuals only for the purpose of creating that suspensive quality. And those are regulated in the game. More importantly, too, that this is the teaching and assessments, these rules that really maintain that culturally sustaining approach, are packaged as part of the game. And it's all packaged together in the information, or in the guidebook that students will utilize. It's a way of teaching hard history, too, because those things are packaged together.
Yeah, and the fourth bullet, fills in gaps in teacher knowledge of multicultural context. So the research suggests, particularly James Banks, he talks about how teachers don't teach ethnic history, they don't teach multicultural content. One of the reasons is that they don't know the history, right? We hear a lot of people say, oh, I didn't learn about ethnic history until I got to college. So if you don't know the history, you may shy away from teaching the history. So this is not only gonna help the students learn a deeper content knowledge, but this is gonna also help the teacher learn a deeper content knowledge. And this last one, teaching hard history, we know that teachers shy away from difficult conversations, particularly in social studies and history classes. So this is going to allow us to talk about this hard history in the form of a game.
And from a curriculum studies standpoint too, there's I know in the last presentation we talked about a lot about theories of games. This is a really good opportunity to interrogate both the difference between games in play and theories of play. So reacting to the past, Red Clay really hits on 4 kinds of play. This kind of immersive role-playing, the suspensive quality where the students' empirical identities that they bring into the classroom are suspended during the game and their character is the person that they're representing in the classroom. It's subversive, again, of those conventional power dynamics, and it also forces space for reflection. But this critical identity work and Mariana Soto-Manning's discussion of the zone of proximal development really creates this learning community. And one way that this is highlighted is, for example, in the Black Lives Matter at School movement, one of their core demands is promoting ethnic studies. And this is a way that we can get into this space of recentering and foregrounding marginalized narratives. And also, increasingly importantly, introducing students to indigenous epistemologies and indigenous knowledge. But also too, that remember that this is we also make the argument that this is experiential work, and this is a way that we can continue as we talk about student engagement and things like that, to really center this idea of experiential and anti-racist work as fundamentally fused. So again, seeing that that the experience itself, while suspensive, is still a contribution against subverting any of those hegemonic practices and ideologies in schools. So we wanted to leave this slide up with the remainder of our time of just a couple questions we still have as we continue to expand this study. Again, this is still early stage work, and so we wanted to offer these questions for our discussion at the end of the panel. So, thank you.